guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Ink Blot Shop. This is the outline greeting set, the hot and cold drinks. Totally fell in love with this immediately upon seeing it. And then this is a bit of an older set. This is bubble words. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to watercolor bubbles two different ways. So in that outline greetings set, it has this really fun little bubble stamp. And so the first way we're going to do it is we're going to do it by stamping it in water-soluble inks. So for me, I'm going to be using Distress inks. I tried to be different with a different color palette because you guys know that I kind of sometimes get stuck in my same color palettes. I think it happens to everybody. So I chose an orange, a yellow, a green, and a teal. And I really like the way that it came out. I think that they're fun. So in order to do the technique, you're going to want to have watercolor paper. I'm using Canson Monteval watercolor paper. And then I am just inking up parts of the stamp. I am trying to pay a little bit of attention to the colors that will be next to each other, just because I am using complementary colors. But other than that, there isn't like a wrong way to do it. And if you use analogous colors, which means they're next to each other on the color wheel, you'll have to worry about it even less. So once I had the main bubble image stamped down, in that bubble words, which I've used before because I love those sentiments, if there's little individual bubbles, and that's what you see me using here. And that was just to kind of add a little bit more bulk to my background. So I did just ink them up, stamp them down, clean them off, and then, reapply them where I wanted there to be even more bubbles. And then we're going to do this one's watercoloring first, and then we'll do the next one. So for this one, because Distress inks do work with water, basically all you have to do is decide which bubble you want to be on top and then go in, add clean water to that bubble, and it will wash out, not entirely, I'm gonna be honest with you. You'll still be able to see some of the lines underneath, but bubbles are transparent, so I don't think that's a big deal. But basically, you'll just want to select whichever bubble you want to be on top. And you could do this a bunch of different ways each time, or, stamp a bunch of them and each time select different bubbles. So each time you would get a different look. But that's all I'm doing is I'm just going in with clean water. I'm touching that water to the edges and letting it kind of bring the color into the bubble because we're using a couple of different colors. No two bubbles are the same. And it's really fast, honestly, and super easy. And it gives a really fun look. I could see doing this, in like a pink and purple combination, I think would be really pretty. I chose the colors that I did because I was pairing it with the hot and cold drinks. And so I just wanted something that was like summery and kind of effervescent and refreshing. And I thought these colors would give me that look. I did speed it up because this is a bit of a longer video since we do have so much going on in it. But this way is definitely the fastest and easiest way to do it. It also gives you the least amount of control. So here I've done all the bubbles I can possibly do that aren't touching each other. So I have to dry it down and then I can go back in and do the bubbles that will then be in the background. But like I said, you have the least control because you don't have a lot of control over where the color is going down. It's just kind of like ink it up and it's haphazard. I still think it's pretty. It's also a lot softer this way. The edges are not as harsh because that's where you're getting your pigment from. And so it's kind of like blooming out, and is definitely a softer look than the other one. But any ink pad that is water soluble will work with this. So if you have Distress inks like I do, or you have maybe Hero Arts reactive inks, Distress oxides, those will all work for this technique. The oxides would be interesting because they do have that pigment. So I'm not sure how that would go for the look of bubbles per se, but might be interesting to try. I would maybe try those on black watercolor paper. I bet that would be pretty. But yeah, so just going to go through, finish this up. And then for the second way, The second way, I am going to use a no-line coloring ink. Now, the no-line coloring ink will not melt out with water like the distress inks do. So that's just something to keep in mind. Here, I've just flipped the circle, so now my diagonal is going to be going the other way, just because, I don't like to make the same card twice. So I'm going to stamp it down. I'm using the no-line coloring ink from Honeybee, but again, this is not water soluble, so it's not going to wash out. You could also do this by stamping in a lighter color distress ink and then going in with a mark, like a watercolor marker, watercolored pencil, and then it would wash out, but a no-line coloring ink is not going to wash out. I did stamp it twice because I'm stamping on watercolor paper and it's challenging to get a good impression. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to use those smaller bubbles to go in and just kind of expand it out a little bit. Here, I might have gone a little overboard. I put in a lot of little bubbles. I was having a good time. I put in a lot of little bubbles. But I wanted my background to be full. So you can do it whichever way tickles your fancy. A little less full or a little more full. But then, so once my stamping is done, this time I'm going to use my Karin Brushmarker Pros. This is definitely bolder because you're taking the marker and going direct to paper. And I'm just following along the lines, but it's the same thing. I'm picking which bubbles I want to be on top, and then I'm outlining those ones first, and then I will add my water. I will then do my second layer of bubbles. Now, I did not show this whole thing, because this one does take a bit longer because you have to apply the individual colors. But this is how you would do it if you had like Derwent watercolor pencils, if you had another type of watercolor marker, this would be how you would do that technique. Alternatively, I'm using stamps that are intentionally bubbles, but you could use any circle, or you could draw your own circles. That would also work. You wouldn't even need a stamp for the background. You could just draw your own circles and paint them. So lots of options here. I like just being able to stamp it down, just like being able to stamp it down and watercolor it. But I know not everybody has the same supplies. So I like to show different options if I can think of different ways to do it. So one of the things I noticed right away with the Karens is they didn't spread as much. And I'm not sure why that is. I've never had any issues with the color spreading before, but they just didn't move as much as I thought that they would. They obviously move. You can see that the bubble is filling in, but I'm not sure what I pictured in my head, but I just thought that there would be more pigment. So eventually what you're going to see me do is scribble out some of the pigment onto my glass mat, and then I will pick up a little bit from there. That way I can add in more pigment where I want it to be more flowy, and I did find that I liked that much better. I'm not sure how I guess if you were doing watercolored pencils, you would just take your paintbrush to the pencil and pick up some pigment, and then you could further drop it in if you needed to add additional pigments. So here you can see it's just not a ton of pigment. So I'm trying it first with the blue, and then I'm like, yes, okay, I like that much better. And then I'll add in the rest of the other colors and just continue painting. As far as the process, I think just because you have the added step of putting down the color, it just does take just a little bit longer than the first way around. So I think if I did it again, or I did a similar technique, I would probably do it the first way around. You'll have to let me know which background you end up liking more. If you like the softer one or the bolder. I'm super torn because I like the bolder background, like the bolder edge of the bubbles, but I liked the processed time of the distress inks. So maybe for me, it just depends on how much time I have to play that day. That may be like how into watercoloring I am that day. I'm not sure. So yeah, so that's what's happening there. Speaking of my glass mat, somebody had sent me or had left me a comment, and they had said, I can't find your exact glass mat. I know I shared when I first got my glass mat that mine has custom illustrations that I drew. Those are my family's birth flowers. So if you're looking for a glass mat, mine, the link below, well, you can get 20% off with my coupon code if you're in the market for a glass mat. But the one that is linked in my supply list is the custom one. Just because that's the one that I purchased and I'm trying to be transparent. But they have a bunch of other ones that if you like florals on yours that you could pick out from their designs, or if you are somebody who likes to draw, you can submit your own customization for your own glass mat. So just wanted to touch that. I kept meaning to address it and then forgot about it. So yeah, that's that. What have we been, so I did these, I actually painted these before we left for vacation. And this is just one of those videos that didn't get edited because I didn't have enough time. Like, it just happened. It's not like I didn't know I was going on vacation. I knew I was going on vacation, but sometimes there's just not enough time in the day. And I am a hopeless optimist when it comes to amount of the time or the amount of things I can achieve in a certain amount of time. And yeah, I couldn't get it done. And it's okay. I mean, it just was what it was. I was worried that the channel was going to sit, like, without any content for a week. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. But it was all right. So here I am stamping down my 2 drinks. I will definitely be revisiting this set once we get into the colder months because, you know, I'm a coffee person. But I thought that these 2, one is in like a little mason jar and one is in a little cup. I thought that they looked like very refreshing summer drinks. And this week alone on this channel, we have done fall and then we've done Halloween, and I am not ready to let go of summer yet. So here I wanted to be able to use their mirror image as well. So I'm just stamping. This is a honeybee silicone mat. I am stamping on there, and then I am using my watercolor paper to press down. You don't want to slide it around, just press it to pick up the image. And then to clean it, I just have a microfiber towel. I'm going to spray it with some stamp cleaner and then just wipe it up. I've not ever had an issue with it staining or anything like that. And then I will do this for the other one as well, for the glass, not the mason jar. And this was just to give me 2 partners that were going directions that were similar. Because like this one, the straw is going one way, and in the other one, the straw is going the same way. And so I wanted to be able to use them together, but have them fit nicely. And so that is how I ended up choosing to do the mirror image. For me, using the mirror image just means that I have to go in. These are Sketch Bar fine liners, which I think I've officially made the switch over completely. And I didn't have any issue with the watercoloring or anything like that. I just have to go in and bold up those lines that are already there. This is much easier to do on regular cardstock. The watercolor paper does make it a little bit tricky because it's more textured. So just being honest there. I did decide to do a little bit of watercolor in the background of each of the drinks because the watercolor, the way that it moves, because watercolors are transparent and alcohol markers are transparent, you can still see the, how do I even put it? The lines from the watercolor, like the way that the water moves, the blending and the bleeding out, you can still see it through the coloring. And so I really wanted that piece of it in the background. But I am going to be doing Copic coloring over top of it. You will see shortly that when I got to the Copic coloring, I thought that my pieces were dry, and I started to try to color, and it was apparent very quickly that even though I thought they were dry, they were not. So just keep in mind when you are doing your coloring, if you're going to use a watercolor like underpainting and then color over top of it, make sure that it's all dry. Just just double check it with your heat gun, just in case, because mine was not dry. And then I ended up having to refill my Y08 marker in the middle of this video, because as I've told you guys before, I used to be really good about refilling them, and now I'm trash at it. Like, I'm garbage at it. I don't, yeah, see here, now I'm like feeling it, and I was like, ooh, you are a little cool to the touch. So insert the drying tool to make sure everything is dry before we move on. But yeah, I'm not very good at refilling my markers right now. I just refill them as I need them. So here, just going in, and I decided that I was going to add the color to just the edges, but then the darkest color I also wanted kind of like in the center of the drink, behind the straw and what I assume is lemons. You could probably do like a limeade too. That would be cute, I think. Or maybe like pink and do grapefruits. That would be fun. A lot of options there. But anyway, so I kept my color concentrated, and then I am going to color the lemons a bit of a darker color, since those are, solid objects. For the ice cubes, for the front of the ice cubes, I'm just going to leave it the watercolor. I'm not going to add anything else to it. But the sides, I am going to add a little bit more shading to. And then eventually, once the coloring is done, we will get around to the white gel pen highlights, which I really think kind of make everything kind of pop. So yeah. So now we've been back vacation for a week, and have I unpacked? Absolutely not. No. Have I unpacked and done laundry for everybody else? Yes. Yes, I have. My own suitcase. I unpacked which I feel like I should get credit for. I would like you to notate it in the Kelly credit column that I did do this. We unpacked the food. I unpacked the overnight bags and did all of that laundry because we split up the trip. So halfway through, we stayed in Winchester, Virginia, which, let me just tell you, if you live in the great state of Virginia, does your state ever end? Like, we drove through Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, a portion of West Virginia, and then Virginia, in the same amount of time that it took us to drive through the entire state of Virginia. Like, the second day, we started at the top of Virginia and then drove through to North Carolina. And, like, both of us, we were in two different cars because Eric's parents didn't come down until a little bit later. But my sister and my mom in one car, and Eric and obviously our children and I in the other car. And at different times, both of them said the same thing. Like, does the state of Virginia ever end? How are we driving for 5-6 hours and we're still in Virginia? It was like never ending. I think we spent 11 days in Virginia. Anyway, so we did stop halfway through and spend the night. So that part was good. But then we had the overnight bags. Let's talk about the straws real quick. I wanted to incorporate all of the colors into the background into the drinks. And so I chose to do that by making little fun stripedy straws. Like, how fun are these straws, guys? I would use these straws in real life. But the portion in which I added shading, I only added it to the part that is sticking out of the drink, so that would have more detail and more depth of color versus the portion that's inside the drink. You would still be able to see the striped detail, but it's not going to be as bold or in your face as the shading that is on the outside. So it helps to kind of set them apart, that one is inside and behind and one is outside and out front. So just something to note there. And then I'm going to shade the glasses with some blues. So yes, we've been back from vacation. I have not unloaded my suitcase yet, and I have not actually unpacked Caitlin's suitcase. The reason I haven't is because, you guys, can you believe my child is almost 2? Can you even believe that? Like, how is this happening so fast? they were not kidding when they say the days are long, but the years are short. Like, I cannot believe that she is going to be this big. So, needless to say, I have to clean out her 18-month clothes because Jelly Bean does not fit into them anymore. So, I did not unpack her bag because I figured it was just more like so many things are already separated right now into clothes that fit her and clothes that don't, that I wasn't going to add to the chaos. So this weekend I plan to unpack her and clean out her drawers to make room for her 2T stuff. 2T! We're out of months clothes. It's so... And the other thing that we discovered, like, oh my babies, while we were on vacation, because she slept in a pack and play the whole time, so we gave her a pillow while she was in the pack and play. She loves the pillow. So now when we put her in her crib, she has her own pillow and she'll lay down on her pillow and then you can cover her up with her little blankie and she loves it. And she looks like such a big girl. Eric worked overtime the other night and so I told him, I was like, you need to go look at your big girl. And he took a picture because like on our phones, because the app is on the phone, you can see even if we're not at home, we can still see her camera. He could see it from work and then you can take pictures or video, and he took a little picture of her just because she looked like such a big girl. I'm happy she's growing up, but I'm sad she's growing up. Complications of being a parent. Anyway, so here, all the coloring is done. I'm going in and adding some white gel pen highlights. I added them to the jar, to the ice cubes as well, and then a little bit to the straw. And then this one has like the orange, or on the other one, it's a lemon with them sticking out. I added just a couple little lines to give it a little bit more texture. In those cases, I just let my pen skip. I don't try to get fine, full lines. I just let it skip. And that works really well. I think the white gel pen is such an easy, simple way to add a little bit more pizzazz. So now I'm going to fussy cut these out so that I can lay them over my design. These were really, really easy because it just has like the round circle and the straight straw. These were super simple to cut out. And then once my fussy cutting was done, I always use if I can find the marker, let's be real, the Memento Tuxedo Black marker to do the edges. This just gives them a much more finished look so they don't have like that white raw edge. So I went in and did that with all of the pieces that I cut out. Originally, I thought that I would do a yellow and orange with a yellow and orange, but I actually ended up liking the monochromatic, like the yellow and the orange and orange better. So these sentiments are both from the outline greetings. So I chose one that says congrats because I thought that, like the two glasses clinking together would be like a little cheers kind of thing. And so I thought that was pretty fitting for my little bubble background. So I chose congrats. And then for the other one, I chose oh yay. And I did stamp them twice because I am, again, on that watercolor cardstock, which is just a bit more textured. And so the oh yay, I figured could be used, for any kind of congratulations or celebration or anything like that. Again, with the drinks clinking, I thought that worked really well. So once I got that done, I did trim, I'm sure you noticed, I trimmed them down a little bit, to give them a white border. This is just another way to add a little bit more interest to your card by having two layers. Even though they're the same color, because you have that little bit of separation, it does add some interest to it. And then I went in with my white gel pen and added highlights to my actual bubbles, as well as some glitter, like the clear glitter pen. So I'm just going to glue this down flat because I am going to pop my glasses up on some foam tape. I think personally that you wouldn't even have to put the glasses on. I think this colorful of a background, you could just leave it like this and it would be a great card. I maybe would have done my sentiment a little bit different if I was just going to leave it like this, but I think that it's enough interest with all the watercolor bubbles to carry the card. But I am going to put my drinks on, because I colored them, and I'm not about to waste all that time I colored. So I am going to pop them up. And the first one is just an even pop up all the way across. And you do have to cut like a little skinny piece for the straw just to make it sturdy, but it was okay. Even though you guys know how I feel about the finicky bits. I don't like them. Even though I did have to cut some finicky bits, it really was okay because I just needed that one piece for the straw. And then that one just went down just as is. For the second piece, because I wanted them to overlay, I do have to kind of leave off a corner. So here, like the corner that overlaps, in order to make that flush, I'm not going to put any foam tape there. I'm going to put foam tape everywhere else, but not there. There I will put glue so that it will just adhere to the other drink that's already popped up. So you'll see me kind of going back and forth and double checking where I need to put my foam tape so that I don't put it in a place that it doesn't need to be because Lord knows I've done that before. Yes, I have. But I just wanted it to be sturdy and secured, like it's not going to go anywhere when I'm moving it. And then that one corner where I don't have any foam tape, I'll just put a little bit of glue and adhere that down. So yeah, so vacation, Caitlin's sleeping with a pillow now. She's getting to be such a big girl. Yeah, so we're back home. I'm not ready for summer to wind down yet, but it is happening. I apologize for my phone. Normally I have it on vibrate. We're winding down towards the school year. In fact, this weekend is like the tax-free shopping for the school year, and he starts at the end of the month. So you can see on the other one, I did put stickles. I also put stickles on this one because who doesn't love a little bit of glitter? I added it to some of the ice cubes as well as the rim. And then to complete the bubbly look, I am adding some rhinestones just to kind of draw the eye more toward the center and maybe fill in any gaps that I feel like I have. And then that's it. That is both cards. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time. I hope you learned a little something. If you give either one of these a try, please tag me on Instagram or whatever so I can see. I always love to see your work. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.